Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us for this edition of Streets for All Happy Hour. If you have questions as we're going through everything and you don't want to forget them, that link at the top will allow you to ask a question. People can also upvote other people's questions. And when we get to the conversation with Adele, after we get through our questions, we will go ahead and open it up to your questions. So really looking forward to that.
And the link's in the chat too.
The link is also in the chat. Just in case this is your first time, Streets for All is about a year old. We are Los Angeles's first transportation-focused PAC. So we do two main things. We raise money and spend money on behalf of candidates that will be very progressive when it comes to their transportation policies at City Council. And then we also have our eyes and ears on the ground and look for projects that we can advocate for things like bike lanes and bus lanes and help to make our city more friendly to all forms of transportation. So we kind of have dual roles. We're very busy right now with the election, but we're also doing a lot of general advocacy work. So with that, let's go ahead and dive in. Oh, and I apologize. I'm at the very last slide. Let me go to the very first slide. There we go. That looks better. All right. So we're going to go through some election endorsements, talk about the ADAPT program, talk about the upcoming neighborhood council elections, talk about slow streets and the progress there, LA al fresco, some things with Metro, a few wins of the month, and then really looking forward to the chat with Adele at the end. So everyone that talks tonight is going to start with this question. Adele, you can start thinking about it now because we're going to ask you too. What is your guilty pleasure TV show? And since Adrian is going first, she has to answer that question, and then we'll start talking about election endorsements. So over to you, Adrian.
All right, thank you. So I think that my favorite guilty pleasure TV show is The Simpsons, but nothing within the last roughly 20 years. I grew up on the old stuff, and I could probably recite every episode line by line. So it's just always a nice, comforting thing I could zone out to. So I'm going to be talking about the candidates that we've endorsed in the race for next month. So we're proud to announce our endorsements for this election. We sent questionnaires to dozens of candidates in races throughout the greater LA area. And these are the candidates whose responses demonstrate a commitment to safer streets and bike lanes and climate change. So in Council District 4, we're endorsing Nithya Raman. She's a tireless champion of homelessness solutions and is a former urban planner. Nithya is also a supporter of bus and bike lanes. Next slide, please. In Culver City, Streets for All endorses Yasmin McMorrin, Daryl Menthe, and Freddie Puza for City Council. These candidates support free public transportation, reallocation of public space during COVID, abolishing parking minimums, and creating a network of bus and bike lanes for a more sustainable city. Next slide, please. In Downey, we've endorsed Alexandria Contreras for City Council District 1. Alexandria wants to improve Downey Link and expand the city's network of bike lanes. She's also opposed to the 605 freeway expansion as well. Next slide, please. For Santa Monica City Council, Streets for All's endorsed Gleam Davis, Anna Maria Yara, Terry O'Day, and Ted Winterer. These candidates believe in a walkable and bikeable Santa Monica and the connection between transportation policy and climate change. They're also up against a slate of candidates that would throw Santa Monica back into the transportation Stone Age. Next slide, please. For California State Assembly District 64, we endorse Fatima Iqbal Zubair. She wants to see more bus shelters and protected bike lanes in South LA and supports incentives for non-car transportation. Next slide. Streets for All endorses David Kim for U.S. House of Representatives in District 34. David has shown a clear understanding of a multimodal Los Angeles and how to translate those lessons to policy in Washington, D.C. Next slide, please. In South Pasadena, we've endorsed Evelyn Znaimer and Michelle Hammond for City Council. They both understand that we need to design infrastructure that's safe for residents of all ages to move about. And next slide, please. We've endorsed Holly Mitchell for LA Council Supervisor in District 2. Holly views transportation through a lens of environmental justice, seeking to fund and improve transit and active transportation. Since the winner of this race will sit on the Metro Board, it's imperative that our next county supervisor understands these issues. Next slide. Burbank City Council has some excellent candidates to choose from, but Constantine Anthony and Sheriff Minokian stand out on transportation issues. Constantine is currently a transportation commissioner and an advocate for bus and bike lanes and the NoHo to Pasadena BRT. Sheriff wants to increase housing around transportation hubs and turn Burbank into a 20-minute city. Next slide. We just released some campaign ads this week, so be sure to check them out on our YouTube channel or on our social media sites. Next slide. And you can check out our full list of endorsements on our website on the screen right here. So next up, Michael is going to give you some updates on the ADAPT program. Take it away, Michael.
Thanks, Adrian. Guilty TV show probably would be Narcos. I think I've watched all the seasons multiple times. So diving into ADAPT. The ADAPT program, for those that don't know, was a special program during the COVID-19 traffic lull to focus on repaving high traffic commercial corridors. Two streets wanted to bring your attention to: Adams Boulevard between Fairfax and La Brea, which has now been extended to Crenshaw. So between Fairfax and Crenshaw, we were working with the community and trying to build up support for this. And unfortunately, with the council office and other limitations, it looks like we're going to be able to do one of two things. These are slides from LADOT. Both reduce one vehicle traffic lane in each direction and put bike lanes on the street. So those are huge safety improvements. It's a very dangerous street. 20 people have died over the last 8 years walking and biking on it. One with diagonal parking like this, and the other with a very large buffered bike lane on each side. This is our preferred model because it also doesn't preclude protecting the bike lane and flipping the car and bike lane in the future. So if you want to learn more about that, go to LADOT Livable and look up Adams. And there's going to be a lot of community outreach happening soon. The second one is San Vicente between Fairfax and La Brea. Currently, it looks like this: 3 lanes in each direction, plus parking and a center turn lane. This is what we have been advocating for. This is also on our mobility plan. And it was supposed to be presented tonight at the Pico Neighborhood Council. They've been playing, unfortunately, a bit of games, and we are not going to be presenting tonight. But we still encourage you to Zoom into the meeting. And this is at 6:30 tonight, so very soon. And make public comment in support of the bike lane and ask them to agendize it, because it's been many months and there's been a lot of outreach, and the people deserve to know where the board stands. And lastly, want to let you know that ADAPT is ending tomorrow. This was a special program only done while parking restrictions were relaxed during COVID when everyone was at home. But as of tomorrow, street sweeping is resuming, ticketing is resuming. And so it marks the end of ADAPT, but does not mark the end of repaving and the mobility plan. So I'm going to turn it over to Jenny to talk about the neighborhood council elections.
Thank you. So there are 99 neighborhood councils in Los Angeles, and they are LA's most local form of democracy. Unfortunately, it's where many transportation projects go to die. The people on these boards often oppose things like repurposing road space for a bus lane or a bike lane, but we think that we can change that by getting more progressives and diverse people on the ballot. Next slide. So the candidate filing for the 2021 neighborhood council elections will open up on November 13th, and we highly encourage people to run. We'll be hosting 2 webinars next week to help navigate the neighborhood council system. So how to run for a seat, how to form a progressive slate to flip the board, and how to recruit others. So if you're interested in making a difference, come learn at one of our webinars, come ask questions. And it's going to be on Tuesday, October 20th from 1 to 2 p.m. And there's another one on Wednesday, October 21st from 5 to 6 p.m. So they're both the same content, just at different times. Thank you. Oh, and I forgot to say my guilty pleasure. My guilty pleasure TV show would have to be Parks and Rec. For me, it's just something I can always turn to. It always makes me laugh. It always makes me feel good. And back to Michael.
Thanks, Jenny. I already said my guilty pleasure, so I'm going to dive right into slow streets. So DOT has been making some changes that we're not crazy about. They've gone from 2 A-frames down to 1, and they've also removed the road closed local traffic only sign, which was the only sign that was large enough to be read by cars that were driving. Everything else is kind of small. So we have put together a letter to LADOT asking for these things to be fixed. We're also asking them to restore the cones on both sides that used to be there and add sandbags or something, because our volunteers and volunteers around the city are exhausted from having to keep resetting these things every day. So we are circulating this among neighborhood councils, and we'll probably send it off within the next few weeks. We expect to get 8 to 10 neighborhood councils to sign on. The last thing I'll tell you about slow streets is we got it onto Google Maps. So slow streets in Los Angeles are now on Google Maps. It looks like this. This will route car traffic that's using Google Maps for directions around slow streets, and it will route people that are cycling and using Google Maps for biking directions onto slow streets. So we think this is a really positive development. It also just makes it feel a bit more official. Over to Bubba, talk about Culver City.
Hey everyone, my guilty pleasure show is Love is Blind. It was the beginning of quarantine, and if you're not familiar, congrats, but it's people who have never met but only can communicate through a wall and never see each other have to decide who they want to get engaged to, and they get engaged to each other not ever having seen each other. It's crazy. I would kind of recommend it, but not really. Slow Streets is coming to Culver City. We're very excited about it. Yes, it's 5 months later than LA City, or a few months later than LA City, but you know, it's a smaller city, so we don't have quite as big of a transportation department, so we kind of had to make this from scratch, but we're really excited about it. And they just launched it today, a 3-neighborhood pilot program. The city installed signs on 7 streets, designating them slow streets and encouraging drivers to slow down, and allowing community members to safely use the street to walk, jog, bike, scoot, and enjoy their neighborhood. So this is rolling out in Culver West, Fox Hills, and along Farragut. Thanks, David Coles from Bike Culver City, for these picks.
Back over to Jenny for Al Fresco.
So the LA Al Fresco program was launched to support restaurants that were impacted by COVID-19 to help them stay open by providing an outdoor dining options. So this allows restaurants to serve customers while safely practicing physical distancing. And restaurants applied to expand their dining areas into parking lanes, into driving lanes, and adjacent private lots. So the city also provided planters and barricades and umbrellas for the outdoor dining. In phase 1 of the program, about 2,000 restaurants received approval, and this included 1,159 approvals for sidewalk dining, 1,364 for private property, 50 for curbside dining, and 24 street closures. And in phase 2, there is $1,100,000 in funding to maintain the existing program and add up to 20 additional curbside dining areas, and also add the at least 20 additional lane closures. So restaurants, the owners, the operators, and the employees, they view the Al Fresco program as an important lifeline. So the city is really seeing an overwhelming demand for the program. And I also think that people in LA are excited to use our space in a different way. So we want to encourage people to let the city know that we support this program, and you can do that by making a public comment on Council File 201074S1. And I'm going to turn it over to Tara Nigg.
Unmute myself. Hi everyone. My guilty pleasure is probably Mozart in the Jungle. It is a series about New York Symphony and their new conductor, and he's a very fun character to watch, and music is great. And so let's jump into the 6055 freeway expansion. So we usually think of Metro as the organization that runs our buses and our trains, but Metro also provides funding and directs planning for freeway projects in the county of Los Angeles. One of these projects is the 6055 freeway expansion. And according to Streets blog, in August, Metro announced that this mega project would take out 250 plus properties in Downey. Next slide. Even as the climate crisis looms, we're spending tens of millions of dollars for freeway expansion and tearing down people's homes. Worst of all, we've known for decades that widening projects don't even do what they're supposed to do, which is decrease commute times due to induced demand. But opposition to such projects is finally starting to materialize. The city, next slide. The city of Downey somewhat modified their full support to expressing some opposition to the expansion plan in its current form. And local candidate who is running for Downey City Council, Alexandria Contreras, who we have endorsed, is strongly opposed to this freeway expansion. Her words for her opposition are much more powerful than anything we could say. So, quote, "If this moves forward, it would destroy my parents' home, my old elementary school, and 2 parks to widen the freeway. LA Metro will have taken 3 generations of wealth away from my family if this goes through. They took my grandparents' house, and now they're planning to take the only form of inheritance my parents have to offer." Now back to Bubba for the wins of the month.
Great. Thanks, Taranig. So we have a new segment on SFA Happy Hour called Wins of the Month. Yay. It's little things here or there that we can all be excited about. And we even include victories that Streets for All had nothing to do with. So that's fun. The first is new bike lanes on Washington. There are brand new 2 blocks of protected and buffered bike lanes. It's only 2 blocks long because it was created as a package deal with the new outdoor dining there on the street. We're excited to have it nonetheless. And that's 2 more blocks of safe travel for people without cars that existed before. If you go to the next slide, farther west on Washington, there are brand new bike lanes are popping up right next to Ivy Station and Platform. And they haven't been completed yet, as you can see, but they're stenciled there. So hopefully soon. And finally, and way more importantly, SB 288 was signed into law by Gavin Newsom, allowing public transit and cycling infrastructure projects to bypass the California Environmental Quality Act review, or CEQA. And this will fast track these projects across the state, which we're really excited about. So over to Michael to talk Uplift Melrose victories.
Yeah, so Uplift Melrose was certainly not a victory. It got torpedoed. But the victory here is that we are shining light on what is clearly systemic bias within our own city agencies. This is an excerpt of an email from Captain Paulson of the Wilshire Division calling into question why bike lanes exist in Los Angeles, because they surrender valuable vehicle traffic lanes to make them, and no one uses them anyway. This goes against Vision Zero, goes against our own mobility plan, and shows we have a lot of work to do to coordinate our agencies and have the mayor's office, Streets LA, DOT, and council offices all coordinate to make sure that our emergency services can be provided but not block the way of progress. And the Bicycle Advisory Committee sent a letter to LAPD and LAFD about this. The good news is LAFD has already responded, and it seems like they're really open to communication and to starting a dialogue and want to be part of the conversation. So that is a win. So with that, I am going to introduce Adel. Adel, are you on? I think you're on mute. There we go.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, good. Good to see you. So Adel Hagekhalil, did I say that right?
Yeah, perfect.
Thank you. Practice it. Is the general manager and executive director of Streets LA, which was formerly known as the Bureau of Street Services. I'm not sure when the rebranding happened, but I think it was relatively recently. And has a long history of working in the city of Los Angeles, and from our perspective, just has a totally fresh vision on cooperation between the Bureau of Street Services, or Streets LA, and DOT and our mobility plan, which is inspiring to see. Streets LA can do things that DOT can't all the time. They can pour concrete, they can repave roads, they can do things that really impact our city. So Adel, we're super grateful for the time.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna jump into a few questions and then we'll open it up to audience questions. So can you explain, just for the lay person out there, what you guys do and what does the Department of Transportation do? And what is the working relationship between the two, just from a high level?
Well, thank you, Michael, and thank you for inviting me, and thank you for your collaboration with us at Streets for All, and I think it's a great partnership. You know, I value, as you said, collaboration, and this is really, I use the 3 I's in everything I do. I come with an environmental background, led water infrastructure for the last 30 years. I've been with the city for 32 years, but I'm anchored in integration, innovation, and inclusion. And I believe that those 3 I's is really my anchor in everything I do, because I believe that we need to continue thinking differently, bring people together, bring services and multi-benefits together. At the end of the day, bring people together, because streets connect us. LADOT is in a way, they manage traffic in the city. They manage the how mobility occurs in the city. In Streets LA, we actually make things happen. We build things. We improve the streets, the infrastructure on shade, on transit shelters, on trees. And we are expanding in terms of, we build sidewalks, we build active transportation corridors. We have, with the largest paving company in the world, in the United States, probably in the world. We have a capacity, we have plans for asphalt. We're thinking differently about climate change. We're leading the way in climate change. So the difference between us, I mean, we complete each other. DOT does a lot of the planning and the management of the different modalities of mobility.
Bad time for...
Yeah,
okay.
And we're working together on it, but we have great collaboration, so great.
Great, thank you. So you've been in your role since September 2018, is that correct?
Yeah.
Yep.
2 years.
What are the goals that you came in with? What have you changed since you've come in? And specific to this crowd, can you share any goals you have that are specific to bike lanes, bus lanes, active transportation?
Sure. I came in 2 years ago. The mayor asked me to use my integration skills that I brought together to uplift Streets LA and to really transform Streets LA into a world-class organization that's really building on mobility, addressing climate change, and really collaborating and planning to make our streets safe, mobile, and sustainable. That's the mission that we have now in Streets LA 2 years ago. I'm proud to say we've transformed it into an agency that's one of the best in the city, a leading agency, environmental agency now, by really enhancing the quality of life for all and bringing all these factors into how we do business and being smart, strategic, collaborative on what we do. So it's giving an example of the things that we have done. We are analyzing shade and putting cool pavement and urban cooling in the city to address the climate change, one of the biggest issues we all deal with. And we're doing work to ensure that people can commute and connect, whether through transit, so mobility, walking, biking in a shade, in a safe environment. So we are working on cooling the city through our urban cooling program. We are working through a program to add shade structures. We have collaborated with DOT to, over the last 2 years, we paved over 200 miles of bike lanes, 400 miles actual bike lanes, by us being smart and strategic of collaboration. We've actually, last year alone, the liability reduction that we've reduced in terms of liability for the city, focusing our work on areas that have high injury and high risk to the city, whether it's bike lanes, streets, sidewalks, is 335 saved, I think, by reducing the liability of the city in being smart, using technology, using collaboration. And you see in ADAPT, we're able to work together with DOT to really build and do the connectivity that we need. In downtown, in other parts of the city, in Avalon, bike lanes are built everywhere. We have requests for proposals for shade structures with planting trees. We have an inventory of of trees underway right now. Almost 120,000 trees already been inventoried, will be online. And the biggest thing is I have a Fuse Fellow conducting a carbon footprint analysis and identifying practices that we can change to make our operations and what we do better for the environment and better for the city.
Thank you. You have a lot going on. I want to talk to you about Uplift Melrose because it was fascinating to me because projects like this normally come from DOT, from what I've seen, not from Streets LA, but this was a major capital project that Streets LA proposed. You know, this would have added wider sidewalks, new trees, new traffic patterns, LA's first curb level protected bike lane on a street that's on the high injury network and that has a protected bike lane on the mobility plan. I was wondering if you could share with us what you think went wrong and how can we get transformative projects like this approved in the future? Mm-hmm. And were you frustrated with where it wound up?
So Streets LA, actually, we've been working planning group, and we have a large grant program that we apply for active transportation corridors. We have worked really hard with on some work around the Orange Line in the Valley. If you haven't seen those videos and the planning we've done for urban cooling, bike lanes, shade, safe areas to do the first mile and last mile. We worked with DOT. Actually, we came up with ideas on the Broadway Manchester improvements for Vision Zero, bike lanes, but also we're looking for stormwater. As you know, I believe strongly in water resiliency and water support. So if we bring water, transportation, mobility, shade, all that together, that's where the future is. And we have secured over the last 2 years, $200 million in grants. And last year alone, we have $82 million in grants on active transportation, but we're leveraging that we applied for money, for example, from Measure W, the stormwater bond, to add $13 million work being done in the area around Broadway and Manchester to improve the active use of that area, provide shade, bike lanes, but also make it safe and capture stormwater and plant trees. So we're working really hard on that issue. So Melrose, Uplift Melrose is another project that we really pursued. We're proud that we worked with the bid and worked with you, Streets for All and Michael. Unfortunately, it didn't go council members. However, I think to me, what I've learned out of this is more to be done. We need to continue working together. I think between all of us has been great. And to me, the support that I saw from the community and the businesses was amazing. So that doesn't take away, I think, from what we need to continue doing. I would say we need to continue. This should not set us back. We need to continue moving forward. This is something that we learned from and move forward. You know, you brought in the issue regarding fire department and LAPD. And I think to me is we need to have a straight dialogue with them as to the future. To me, you know, do we build the city around the size of the existing fire trucks, or do we adjust the fire trucks to match the city that we have? I think that's a dialogue we should have. We're having dialogue around racial equity. It's not an easy dialogue for LAPD, but I think they're open. And I think everybody is open. I know the chief is, both chiefs are interested. But I think to me is we need a culture of change needs to continue at all levels. I'm having discussions with the mayor's office, with other people on how we can institute a culture of integration, but also, as our mayor says, reimagine the future and reach beyond your grasp. So I don't want the existing infrastructure dictating the future of the city. So what we're doing, for example, as you know, we just got our first electric street sweeper for bike lanes, and it's electric birthday. So we're gonna I'm gonna have you, Michael, ride it with me. We're gonna go sweep the streets in the bike lanes in the city. But that's the thinking. If we have to use the same sweeper, we can't sweep them. So we have to go buy electric sweeper. And the same thing, I'm thinking that we need to start thinking differently about how we can adjust our infrastructure to match the future. And I think there is a dialogue and an opening. I see what we got out of this is to put these things in front. Unfortunately, we didn't get what we wanted, but I think we have $4 million to spend and figure out how we spend it. But I'm going to continue working with you on other opportunities with DOT and us, because I think the future is bright, and I think we have really a need in our city to become mobile, sustainable, and safe for everyone, for all. And this is what you guys are standing for, Streets for All. And it's whether it's shade, whether it's bike lanes, whether it's safety, equity across the board. I'm all in, and I think we've learned from this, and I want to commit to you that this is not going to stop us. We're going to continue. I'm going to continue with our outreach and education and inclusion. And I'm optimistic the future is bright. I mean, this should not set us back, and I thank you for the partnership on this.
Thank you for that optimism, and maybe things will be different in a couple of years with a different council member in CD5. We'll see.
I can't talk about politics.
Well, he's termed out, so for sure there will be a different council member in 2022.
I hear you. I hear you.
Okay, so let's talk about sidewalks.
Yeah.
So LA is huge, right? I don't know if your agency is the Bureau of Streets that has the most miles of streets and sidewalks in the world. Do you know the answer to that question?
It is.
It is? Okay.
It's the largest. I think we have 24,000 lane miles, and I think 14,000 miles of I think it's, 24,000 lane miles of streets. So that's usually, it's about the same when it comes to sidewalks too.
So is that all? So
that's all.
You guys are able to address about 15% each year of sidewalk repair requests. So obviously there's a large number that I don't think are addressed. Is this a budget issue? And what would it take what would you guys need to make our sidewalks more accessible and safer for everybody?
Yeah. So a couple of things. When I came in, I looked at a lot of things that we need to change. One of the biggest eye-opener for me was the amount of claims we were paying and the amount of payouts we're paying. On the average, every sidewalk claim in the city, we pay $60,000 to settle. And every street failure, an accident because of that, we pay $250,000. It could be much higher. And I saw the amount of money we were paying, and I said, something's not right. As you know, we have the Willits case. The Willits case is really about accessibility, and the city has dedicated $30 million to provide that. And the amount of backlog in that one is huge. So what I felt that's needed is that there's a lot of sidewalks in the city and bike lanes that needed some attention, sidewalks especially. And I had a number at the time, 2 years ago, was 18,000 locations that we have on record of sidewalks that needed to be addressed. What I asked for through my budget and was able to get support is to create 2 crews, risk and liability crews, and use data to help me mine and identify the high risk locations and create a zone of influence that we can spend time in the area. And last year was the first year that we did this program. We stabilized 3,000 sidewalk locations. We used asphalt and other tools, not permanently repaired, but at least it's stable. And we permanently reconstructed 125 locations. And that was a great success on top of what we have done with the Willits program that we do the construction for. And my hope is that we continue that work. Unfortunately, with the budget, that program was cut. But I'm trying to find ways to continue investing and working with the council member, chair of the Budget and Finance Committee on risk and liability and how we can really show, as you know, I mentioned in the beginning, the number of liability reduction that we have potential of 330 million, because I want to show that by us doing the right thing, we can address that. So this year, last year actually, by end of June, we did blockages of trees that were blocking signs and signals, and that was done. So risk and liability is a high priority. We're working with the city attorney's office, working with ITA, working with DOT. And the next level that we're working on right now is bike lanes. And I want to work with you and with the Coalition for the Bike Lane Coalition and the Committee for Bike Lanes on how we can prioritize and assess and come up with a quick way of prioritizing. I want to tell you, I found out recently that the Arroyo Seco bike lane was out of commission. And I was like, what's going on? I jumped personally in, made phone calls to the county, made phone calls to the regional board, moved that quickly. I moved my staff within 2 weeks to repair it. It was done 2 weeks ago. So I would say I'm a person that can get things done and I have no nonsense kind of attitude. But to me, yes, I think we need to be investing more resources in risk and liability reduction, both in bike lanes and in sidewalks. And we can do it. I can do it fast. I've shown the repairs that we have done. Hopefully we can show some pictures before and after, but I can share that with you. It's cheap and quick. We can do it. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money. The second thing I'm trying to do as part of our expansion and the new contract that we're looking on for 2022 for our transit shelters and street amenities and the street furniture, I want to try to use some of that around shelters accessible and safe. So I'm going to make that investment and try to figure out how we can integrate that into it, besides making the actual shelters expanding, adding at least 1,000 more shelters using technology, but also trying to figure out how we can provide more shade, planting trees and helping the community areas that have in South LA and East LA where people use the most dependent on transit and shade. So working really hard in the area and we're learning a lot, and I'm pushing hard on every step, but it's all about money at the end of the day. I'm hoping that this pandemic can, and we're dealing with some tough issues. I'm losing 130 people, because of this issue. We're going to go on furlough next January. I have a large vacancy, so I'm going to have about 30% vacancy. But to me, I'm looking at using data and technology and using information. So I'm putting in an asset management system in place that can capture information. I'm doing a pilot on street sweeping to add mobile eye cameras that would capture conditions of the streets and sidewalks so we can be responsive if we see a change by artificial intelligence of between the first time we swept the street and the second time, we can really adjust it and adapt to it and address it. So it's revenue, but also how we work smart. So I'm telling you, I'm excited that I'm going to be able to, and I think we've done over the last 2 years a great transformation, but more needs to be done. And it's all about collaboration, technology, as the 3 I's I said, like integration, innovation, and inclusion, right?
Great. Thank you. So we're going to take some questions from the audience. Here's the first one. What's the status of the design competition to provide low-cost shade at bus stops? Yeah,
it's great to work with our Chief Design Officer, Christopher Hawthorne. The issue right now is money of how we move on it. We have a great design concept that we received. We're going to move quickly on it. I'm working through a process to transfer money from our from the cool pavement into this shade area and then adjust what we use for the cool pavement. I'm optimistic that we should be able to get this one going hopefully in next month or two and start the implementation of 300 locations using probably 3 or 4 designs. So I'm proud of the work we've done and I'm looking forward to doing this. So I tell you example, I came in, the first thing I saw some of the benches that we have outside the transit, and I challenged the company, Inside Media. I said, hey, can we buy an umbrella and just put an umbrella? As we, we did that. We installed umbrellas and some of them got stolen and removed, but I kept insisting that we add umbrellas, which we did. And I keep trying to think outside the box, but this one is going to be amazing. As you know, also, we're looking for ideas to do sales and shade sales with the new design on the street lights. It has a connectivity to a shade sale and doing that. So, but this one, I think I'm excited. I have the revenue is the issue. I'm working with Chris Hawthorne, and I'm glad. I think we're going to be able to get this moving quickly.
Great. Next question from Kira. She wants to learn more about Cool Streets and how can she get it in her neighborhood?
Yeah, Cool Streets they're cool. And we expanded beyond just pavement. We're doing actually what I call urban cooling. Initially started with just putting a coat of white polymer on the streets to reduce the temperature. But now we're adding trees, adding shade, and I want to do holistic solutions. We are prioritizing the work based on the heat index and transit use and mobility. So I don't know where you live in the city, but you can
lives in Sherman Oaks.
Sherman Oaks. We actually, we some projects, but I'm not sure if yours would do it. We did some in Winnetka, some in Pacoima, Panorama City, South LA. I'll have my into it. Email Michael the location, and your contacts will follow up with my staff. Okay.
Thank you. Next question. How do you view access to street trees and bus shelters in terms of equity?
Yeah, I mean, it's exactly what we last year and a half on shade, heat index, where the heat is. And the tree inventory is the first step, is knowing what we have. As you know, we started doing the tree inventory, and some of the areas in the city, in South LA, for example, 35% of the tree wells are empty. That's a good indication that we can do something quick. Also, we are looking at aligning the use of transit users with where the shelters are. And we know there is a need. So as part of our expansion of the bus shelters, we're gonna be doing it in a way to close that gap and do it in equitable fashion and based on heat exposure and transit use. And we're gonna be doing it, and we already have maps and analysis done where the where's the gap and how we're gonna do it and how we're gonna implement this. I'm excited. Hopefully we'll get some great proposals. 2022 is the start of a new contract, and we're hoping that the first year we would add 800 locations. So it'll be exciting for all of us moving forward. But yeah, equity, shade, heat index, and transit use is critical of equity.
Thank you. Next question. It's a question about baby trees in the hottest parts of town that they have trouble getting established and they don't necessarily grow to be big and healthy. Do you have strategies to overcome this?
You know, we're working with our we've interviewed actually with Dr. Shandas. I've had time with them. But to me, I'm working with our Chief Forest Officer team on our urban forest management plan. We are working on watering and to water the trees. I still think I'm working hard. You showed San Vicente. One of the areas I want to do is how I can use stormwater to help water trees. So building cisterns to capture stormwater, to irrigate trees and expand that. It'll be a great thing. And the next one is I want to see if there's a way we can plant more mature trees. I tried hard to see if there's a way we can go beyond the 24-inch box trees to maybe 60-inch box trees. And we did that with some of the developments that have to remove trees. Actually, I pushed hard to add 72-inch. We did that in the some of the locations like the Migrants Bend on Cesar Chavez and Spring and down by Hoover Triangle. I'm pushing hard to put more larger trees, but at the end of the day, it's all about watering. And, you know, can we get people to sponsor? You know, I'm working with Water Empower about ideas, or maybe we can give people credit or some incentive on their water bill to take care of the trees in front of their house. So there's ideas. I'll work with Rachel on it, but we need to address water is critical for us to, you know, do that. But I'm going to push hard for larger trees, and that's a board by the mayor to increase our tree canopy and start working, getting ahead. When you put in a large 72-inch tree, you already have a 15-year-old tree in place, not a 2-year-old. So you don't have to wait 15 years for shade, so you can address it quickly.
Sarah wants to know how she can be a better advocate within her neighborhood council for improved streets and sidewalks, including non-existent sidewalks, bike lanes, and adding crosswalks.
Yeah, I'd love, we have a advisory council for Streets LA. I created a Streets LA advisory, citizen advisory council that is helping us. But also, I think you should give us your contact. There is actually a email that you can provide input. Would love to come to your neighborhood council and talk about it and get more information. So if you share your contacts with Michael and let me know how we can communicate with you directly. Really, it's about working with the council office. I'm working with them on prioritizing and also figure out a way how we can add trees, trim trees, open sidewalks. There's things that we can do together, but I'd like to talk to you more about how we can come talk to your neighborhood council and have you engaged with us. So yes, please reach out to us and we will be more than happy to work with you.
Jenny wants to know what your favorite place to walk or bike in Los Angeles is.
I'm trying to lose weight, right? I've lost 85 pounds since July 24th. So I go to the office. So I have not, I go most of the time I'm in the office. Go down from my office all the way and I walk in an alley called St. Vincent Alley on 7th. And I walk from my office all the way there. And it's like if you haven't been to the Middle East or Turkey, it's like Europe, Middle East in one place. So I always walk there and I go there to get my coffee, my food, and I walk back to the office. I live in Fullerton, so I don't live in the city. And I go hiking around Fullerton. I love hike trails. And over the weekend, I went down to Crystal Cove and I hiked all the way up Newport Coast and went down to the beach. And so I have not been biking, but I'll tell you, I used to bike a long time ago, and I used to do that in Mulholland area. I used to live in the valley, but walking, I think I love walking in downtown now because what happens is every time I walk, I call in with like I don't know how many service requests to my staff to do.
Do those get prioritized?
Yeah, it gets high priority, but I always asked when I was going down, no matter what I go in the city, I make phone calls. I always see stuff, and if I see anything, and this is the culture I'm trying to bring agencies. It doesn't matter who you are or what you do. If you see something, do it. If you're a tree surgeon and you see a sidewalk that needs to call it in and see what you need to do. If you see something else that needs to be done, do it. We are integration and we need to all look out for the health, the safety. Streets connect us and I just think we need to do the right thing. But if you haven't been to that alley, you should go check it out. It's right there on 7th and Hill.
It's funny, we had Salida Reynolds on last month and she said how she bikes along Sunset and other parts of LA and always calls her team with ideas and things she wants to fix and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah.
We're all the same.
Yeah. Here's a question about the budget. What are the teams that will be most impacted by the budget, and are there specific programs that you wish advocates were pushing to get more funding for?
It's going to be a tough year. What I'm advocating for is that we need to invest more risk and liability, sidewalks and bike lanes. And I'm pushing hard on formalizing the process of integration. Integration is what I think is the most critical thing, especially nowadays in this city. We need to really have a directive from the mayor to direct general managers to make sure they are coordinating investments. So I'm working with Salida on mobility, thanks to Michael for helping also. We were working together. We meet monthly. We talk about coordination. We talk about ideas. We prioritize. We adjust. Bike lanes to me is investing in making sure our bike lanes are safe, but then how we can connect point A and point B and missing bike lanes, and how we can do that in a smart way. And so investing in technology and asset management system for me is number one priority right now. But I think the cuts will be in a number of areas. One area I'm hoping they don't cut, I'm trying to get that away, is the medians and the maintenance of medians. Blight in the city, and medians are so critical and so visible. I believe strongly that we should some more money in that can help fix bike lanes, fix sidewalks, and invest more in tree planting. And tree planting, I think, is critical in how we. So I'm looking very hard on trying to tap into Measure W and stormwater funding, because trees are great best management practice for stormwater capture. It holds water, it retains water, reduces runoff, but also infiltrates and recharges the groundwater. So I'm trying to be creative of how we do that and how we do that. So I would advocate for technology, investment in trees, and risk and liability.
Speaking of technology, someone wants to know, will technology and access to technology, I'm assuming that means Wi-Fi, be a part of the new proposal of the street furniture?
Yes. It's going to provide access to information, wayfinding, data, all that stuff. And if you are interested in that proposal, that's going to be coming out before the end of the month. That's my direction. That's my goal. And it's going to be open-ended. So we're asking for ideas to bring in new ideas, new concepts. We're driven by providing shade where it needs to be done, providing protection that can enhance the experience of the user, and making the area around these accessible and safe. I'm concerned that we can't put a transit shelter where it's not safe. Do more of that. So technology is critical, yes.
One more question. You sort of already touched on this, but George wants to know, how does the city focus on street improvements and repairs on areas with lower income populations?
Yeah, equity is critical. Equity is, infrastructure is at the heart of equity, in my view. Our providing shade and trees and fixing sidewalks. Streets LA has always been very thoughtful and critical on ensuring equity in the services we provide across the city. We have hired, working with USC to partner with us on doing a overview of our services over the last 2 years, ensuring evaluation of those services, and how these services are in the lens of equity. So, our focus is to provide, repairs across the city with focus on our disadvantaged communities in the city. And we do that across the board, providing shade. I mean, it's interesting, the shade and transit shelters, for example, are in the two areas in Northeast LA and in South LA, areas that we need the most investment. And we are doing that as a priority for us. In sidewalks, we are doing that, and streets being paved. If you look at what happened recently down in South LA, a lot of the work we've done across the board, whether it's Hill and other streets, MLK, we have done a lot of investment and resources in South LA and East LA, and we continue. We provide a pretty fair, equitable work and distribution of work, but we're gonna ask USC, they're working with my staff on including the lens of equity into everything we do, and ensuring that we're fair and we are meeting the needs of the most disadvantaged in our community, especially as we are dealing with moving forward with racial justice and equity across the board.
Last question about an executive order the governor issued. The question is, it emphasized healthy soils, urban greening, better maintenance of green infrastructure to maximize carbon sequestration. Is the city advocating for more state funds, say, for example, the California Climate Investment funding to support urban greening?
Yeah, I mean, that's something we're working on the funding, and we've received a lot of money we're using for our urban forest management plan. It's from CAL FIRE. It's for me is a priority. As you know, I brought that in on the national level. I was actually really working hard on One Water, green infrastructure to manage stormwater. LA, and we've invested a lot of resources transforming, you know, whether it's South LA wetlands or Albion Greenway, or all done together. So I think we're looking at every way to get money, and I would look forward to ensuring that we're doing that. So we're going to advocate. I'm going to work with mayor and council and figure out how we can tap into more dollars to help urban cooling and urban greening.
Great. I think we're just about out of time. Anything else you'd like to add, Adel?
Yeah, I think the score was 15-1, Dodgers 15, which is good, right? But I want to just say thank you. I want to say thank you for being a great partner, for holding our feet to the fire. I never shy away from dealing with issues. I'm somebody that is committed to mobility, committed to enhancing the quality of life for everyone, in addressing climate change, resiliency. I believe strongly in building multi-benefit projects and collaborating and leveraging resources. Mobility for me is critical. We need to provide safe ways for people to commute to, whether it's bikes, walking, using transit. For me, it's critical. And we need to continue doing it, providing shade for people to go from their home to the school, from their home to the store. It's critical for us to be ready for the future, especially as we anticipate that temperatures in Los Angeles will change. Days with 93 degrees and 95 degrees will probably increase triple next 40 years. We need to be ready, and the way we do it is through integration. And I'm committed to partnering with Sleater Reynolds and DOT, the mayor's office, with you all, and with every partner in the city, because I believe we are transforming to be a city we're proud of. Streets connect us, and I'm proud that we have a great team with me here. I think a lot of them are listening. I'm proud of their work. We have transformed our agency to an agency that is really anchored in mobility and safety and equity for everyone. And we are doing our best to serve you. And I'm looking forward to continuing the relationship, and hopefully in better days next year. And hopefully we can get beyond this crisis. And I'm proud of all the work we've done during this COVID in terms of continuing to work and providing services across the board. But I'm excited that the future is bright, and I'm here for you. Our agency is here for you. The city is here to partner with you. And I'm an open door for all of you to partner with, and we look forward to continuing our relationship.
An eternal optimist. I like that. Thank you, Adel. Thank you so much for your time, and to your team. And thank you, everybody. We had about 50 people that watched this, so we really are appreciative of the time, and hopefully this was valuable for everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll be back next month.
With Ciclavia.
Yeah. Hey, you just ruined the surprise.
Oh, I didn't know if you were going to see it. I didn't want to end it.
Yeah, we'll announce the next speaker soon, and go vote. Thanks, everybody. See you soon.